Coming back, because it was a false start. Disclaimer number one, for all of you who know me, I can talk about event storming for hours, and that's what I will probably do, but only 45 minutes on this stage. So the rest probably will be in the bar. So let's do that. Second disclaimer is that, from my perspective, event storming is an amazing tool designed by the people for the people. So instead of me talking about people's experience, I invited some friends and great minds, especially for you, to talk about their experience. So let's start.
Hello, everybody. Well, it's been a long journey with event storming in the last year. The little thing that started as an experiment for trying to visualize aggregates and trying to learn aggregates with people that didn't know domain-driven design turned into a lot more powerful tool for discovering complex domain, for drilling into potential event-driven architecture, and also for challenging the very nature of the businesses we were supposed to write software for. It's been fun, and it's been a long journey of experiments and discovering new ways of having people interact, and also discovering a lot of good friends, practitioners, and people that made experiments with this approach. Good stuff. Okay,
so you know who started. I'm Wojtek. I'm CTO of Freshmail. At the same time, I'm also working on a side project called Intelligent, where we actually work on applied machine learning. So that's the second topic I can talk for hours about, and also the future of our profession. So event storming, that is really for me personally connected with Freshmail. And Freshmail is an amazing company because it's undergoing a huge transformation, where we actually have an open-minded board, and we really were given the freedom to choose the techniques, the technologies, the ways to do the stuff. And as a CTO, well, I should begin. I started not as a CTO, as a big data consultant. So I was doing all of that Hadoop that we all like, but that's boring. So we did a number of other things as well. And I joined the board 2 years ago. So for me, it is a significant talk, because it's 2 years in Freshmail as CTO, as well as most of that journey is with event storming, and thanks to event storming, I would say. And for you who were in the Łódź, I changed the presentation completely. So I won't be talking about event storming as such. I will be talking about what it meant for me, my team, and the people who I know. Okay, if you're becoming a CTO of the company, you walk into your boardroom, you ask your CEO, okay, so what do you pay me to do? And they, of course, say, we need more money, because we need to grow our business even larger. And the first task that I was given with was word expansion. And that's very interesting, because with the Freshmail scale, it's Cyber Monday. Last Friday was Black Friday. Probably every one of you had an email from Freshmail. So we're sending 50 million messages per day. Quick math, we're doing hundreds per second in a peak. You can guess how many. So the technology is really interesting. It's a challenge. And we want to scale it up. The second thing, what means the word expansion, is increased deliverability. In other words, if Jarek wants to have another conference, he will probably email you about it. And he will pay a system like Freshmail to make sure that that email will go to your inbox, not to your, which is true, not to your spam folder, not to your promotions. It has to go into your inbox. Sounds very simple, doesn't it? Well, you just send an email. That's what I thought. I should make another disclaimer. I never sent an email before I joined Freshmail. I mean, not in the millions or not even in the thousands. But as you dig into the problem, so you're becoming a CTO, you just think, okay, that's quite simple. What should I do? The problem, as you know, with all of the projects that we do, is the fact that the reality is very different. So we scope our projects, we talk to our boards, we talk to our stakeholders, users, and what have you, and everyone has a great meeting. We talk about this one thing. The problem is, in most of our minds, I was there, you already designed tables, you already designed topics on Kafka and what have you, and then you go and you want to code as soon as possible. The thing is, everyone has the same problem in their heads, and they write that code. And then it goes through CI, CD, of course, there is a huge problem in the end. And of course, afterwards, what's being deployed to the production is very different to what you will have discussed. And I have to say, Jarek is a part of that story, because I thought, okay, I need to learn more, I need to understand more. And we met for breakfast or lunch, and I said to Jarek, Jarek, I've done a stupid thing, I became a CTO, I need to understand what I need to do. This is where we are, that was a long discussion, and I have no idea about PHP. I have never written a single thing in a PHP before. And he said, okay, you've got this guy here in the middle. You know him, it's Mariusz. Because we discussed, okay, what I really need is to introduce some of the DDD concepts to my team and to our business. And we need to really get into the details of the platform to make sure that we make the right decisions. So we met with Mariusz. We discussed what we want to do and how we want to do it. And of course, I think Mariusz was shortly after the training they done with Alberto. And he said, well, there is this thing that is called event storming. I think we should try that. So, hands up, who knows event storming? Okay, so that will be a short introduction to event storming. By the way, event storming, I will show you what it is. This is event storming. You don't need anything else, apart from people. So what do? You pretty much you prepare a room, a big room that has a wall of at least 8 meters. You invite people from around the business, especially not the technical ones, the people who are in the process and who are doing the process, who know the real bits of it. So not the business analysts in your cases, but the people who really make the process alive. So if we're talking about the bank, that would be people working, for example, the cashier, just making sure that everything, the money comes in, for instance, not the business analysts themselves. And what you really do, you ask them, just describe the process in the form of events. So an event, you know it very well. It's just a verb in the past, like for example, item added to the cart, and you just and you tell them just throw them at the wall, and then you put the timeline. You put all of the stickies along the timeline. So these are the yellow cards, and the lilac ones are quite important because they represent any discussion or any problems that you encounter. So at any point, if you have any issues, if you know that for example, there is no data, there is no person who understands how it works, there is no programmer who developed that, etc., you just put the lilac card. You don't stop. You go forward. And this way, you ensure that you will get all of the process modeled with all of the problems. The other interesting bits are yellow ones. These are the nodes. The ones that you can see here, these are bounded contexts, so you know them quite well. And what's important, we'll come back to this in a moment, is those small arrows. And those small arrows are the events that the team believes are the most important ones. We'll come back to that and that why it's important. So we did our first modeling session, and we were really, really proud. We thought, oh God, we have that nailed down. By the way, the board was in the room, so the guys from the board, the business, etc., etc. And this is us. We were so proud. we just analyzed how Freshmail sends emails. 16 modules, guys. This was probably one of the biggest engines I've seen so far, and I was working with some enterprises before. But we made many mistakes. And when we were thinking about that and discussing it, we felt we got the hype. We thought, oh, there was so much collaboration in the room. There was so much communication going on. We were thrilled. But the problem was we made many mistakes. And we didn't really do anything with that, apart from modeling only one of the most important processes there. So after a couple of months, we sat down with Mariusz, and we thought we really need to come back to event storming. And so we did. As you can see, the lights were only turned on because it was 2 a.m. on Saturday. So one day on Friday after work, we just started modeling. And this time, we felt we starting to get the grasp of what exactly is event storming. And we did that again and again. And I can tell you, after dozens of event storming sessions, I think we're starting to really understand what it really is. And I wanted to talk to you about that. But first, let somebody who was along us have his own way to do it.
Szukając odpowiedzi na pytanie, dlaczego event storming działa tak dobrze, myślę, że należy zwrócić swoją uwagę na podstawową jego zasadę, to znaczy wizualizację wszystkiego. I jeżeli ta wizualizacja oznacza, że zobaczymy gromadę hotspotów w naszym modelu, która po prostu będzie reprezentować naszą niewiedzę, to być może będzie to najważniejszy artefakt i najważniejsza informacja wyniesiona z takiej sesji. Event storming, tak samo jak każde inne narzędzie, którym się obecnie dzisiaj posługujemy, nie jest narzędziem idealnym. Jest obarczony swoimi problemami, swoimi blind spotami. Nie jest też mitycznym silver bulletem, tą jedyną techniką, którą się będziemy posługiwać zawsze i wszędzie. Takim blind spotem może być na przykład zaproszenie niewłaściwych osób na sesję. Efektem będzie prawdopodobny zupełnie wypaczony model. Natomiast posiłkując się kilkoma innymi technikami, łącząc to narzędzie chociażby z analizą SWOT, z modelem C4, impact mappingiem, user story mappingiem i kilkoma innymi technikami, jesteśmy w stanie bardzo mocno ograniczyć te blind spoty. Bardzo chciałbym gorąco zachęcić do tego, żebyście eksplorowali tą technikę, zobaczyli, gdzie ona się Wam jest w stanie przydać i jak bardzo jesteście w stanie ją zmodyfikować. W końcu event storming to jest tak naprawdę bardzo otwarte narzędzie, zbiór kilku zasad wyrażonych po prostu eventami.
Okay, so what were we excited really about? In event storming, you model a process. So you've seen it. We've got domain events along the timeline. The thing that really opened our eyes for when we started chatting about the details about event storming was when you add actors. Actors, of course, are the people who are involved in the process. Then what you really see when you start to analyze that, there are hands-off between those actors. And this is, you can ask yourself really important questions. Then if you were looking for designs, UMLs, or what have you, you wouldn't ask otherwise. And that was the inspiration and the motivation why somebody was in the process. What is driving them to do this process? Maybe they have to. Maybe it's a painful process for them. Therefore, you will start to understand the context and the reasons why are they there and what they need to achieve. And you can help them. Furthermore, when we started to talk about that, we thought, actually, we found something else. If you combine it with user story mapping, some product managers will have ready-to-use ways to actually plan the whole implementation along with the team. Having all of that context in mind, understanding the whole picture, understanding the technical details. Going further, designers. Well, designers will, I did a couple of sessions with designers. In the beginning, they really didn't understand the difference between event storming from our perspective and user journeys. But it came out actually, they can complement each other very, very well. Because with event storming, you can understand the big picture, the process, and focus on the process, on the business process itself, understand the users and the reasons, their motivations, and then you can create personas, because actors are our personas from the UX perspective. And this is working really well. So then you can do user journeys, empathy maps, etc., etc. It's much easier afterwards, after this event storming session. So this is what happened in Freshmail. So this is GDPR session from half year ago. This is how GDPR looks like in Freshmail. For those of you who don't know GDPR, it's RODO in Polish. And underneath you will see the user journey through the whole process as we designed it. And by the way, this session took 3 hours, and we had all of the details about the process. Here are some guys in the front row. Maybe Sebastian, if you can stand up, that would be great. He will kill me for that, but he was the team leader. He was the team leader for that project, and I encourage you to talk to him about comparing the old kind of methods of working on a process with event storming. So let's go further. We've got testers in our teams, don't we? And the question is, what and how? Hello? Okay. So the question is, what to test and how? Guess what? Easy. Because we're talking about events, and you have given one then out of the box. So you can really focus on testing the right things. If you're interested, we can chat about that as well. But you have everything laid out and really well defined. The implementation is the detail. That's the beauty of it. Okay, who is also in our projects? Architects, aren't we? So we're the guys who love to talk about something per second and gigabytes and terabytes and what have you. And we're very important, aren't we? We want to feel important. But the problem is very often we make the wrong decisions, and we make them too soon, and they're very costly. We love to talk about bare metal and how much CPU power we require to run that stuff that business wanted. And guess what? We found that in connection to service blueprints and C4 model that Mariusz mentioned, you can really get the grasp what the prototype will be and make a very lightweight decisions. Furthermore, you can measure how many events per second there are in your system before you start implementation, and maybe you don't need Flink to analyze those events on the fly. What you really need is some Python, and that's all. And there's another person joining us. And there was a surprise when I met him in person. So I will let him describe it himself.
Dobry z Vancouver. Jestem krakowiak, co mieszka w Kanadzie. Miło mi opowiedzieć troszeczkę historii dla Was dzisiaj. Dzięki. The success of the approach is its ability to break down walls between different departments, different concerns. So being able to talk to stakeholders, programmers, QA people, anyone really that is going to be involved in an organization around an effort of development of an information system. To me, it's been really a transformative event in my career and what I see in computing in general. Over the last 10 years, it's been hard to go back to doing requirements, any kind of analysis in a different way than what event storming does. If you haven't tried it, I hope that at the conference that you're at currently, what this is being recorded for, you do that. My name's Adam. I'm online all the time. If you take a look at any event storming, event sourcing, or CKRS subjects, happy to help out with anything.
It was quite a surprise. A person who you follow for years, when you met him in person, you just asked you, Cześć, how are you? So, coming back to the business, because that's also the title of the presentation. This is really important, and we really forget about that all the time. These are the people who sell our tool. These are the people who support our tool, maintain it, talk to our customers, talk to potential customers, etc., etc. So our responsibility in the end, and I will talk about it at the end of the presentation, is really how to make their lives easier, because they make the money that we actually earn in our companies. So, when you're familiar with systems design, you will tell me just go and pick systems thinking. Just have a holistic view of the system, and you will be right. And you tell me, well, you need to get familiar with theory of constraints. You need to make sure that you understand that you optimize the right part of the system to make sure that it's better and faster and easier to use. And you will have you will point me in some people who will actually be dead already, but started some of the lean transformation years ago, and you will be right as well. And from my experience, because I was working, as I told you, I was working with large corporations in the past doing some data insights projects. The problem that I found at every corporation I worked with is it's really hard to define the right things to measure. And there will be overpaid senior business fellow consultants, whatever the title is. They will walk into the room, they will tell you, these are 200 metrics that you need to measure. The problem with most of the companies, everyone will just say, oh yeah, definitely. And this is something when, after one of the event stormings, what struck me. Actually, I don't need to ask anyone, apart from the people who are in the process. Because actually, as you can see, and by the way, this is the 10 years old process which actually is invoicing and accounting. So something that changes the money, the emails that you send into the money that we earn. This is a very important process, as you can guess. So we thought about, we need to measure a couple of things here to make sure that we improve it. And guess what? By understanding what are the problems in the process, we understood, okay, that's very easy to find the right metrics, to talk about users, what is painful for you in this process, if we were about to improve something, what it should be. So this is what we started to do. The other thing is, as you know, when we automating, by the way, if we're writing a code, and we write if statement, we deploy a machine learning model, whatever we call it, a design pattern that makes a decision, we automate the process. We make a decision for our business, and that will be in the code of some kind. And that very often, that would be, for example, alerting as well. And by using event storming, I found I can talk to people, understand what's important for them, and actually talk to them about the right alerts that they require, positive or negative, because when it comes to alerts, it's not only about negatives. Policies. If you're familiar with the domain-driven design, you will like them, you will be familiar with them, and I will come back to them because they're quite interesting. But actually, those two combined are very interesting, and it's very easy, especially on the second level of event storming, to model the system behavior that actually, when something happens, and for example, the value is the value of a metric X is at this level, do something else in a different system. That's very easy, and that's much easier to understand now what has to be done. When we talk about events and metrics, these are in the fact objects. So from my perspective, I just put them on Kafka, right to HDFS. Whatever you have, you can use. But then you can actually do some real data science on it. And I will let somebody else talk about this.
If you really want to succeed with machine learning project, you need to answer at least for 3 main questions. One of them is success metric. What is your success metric? And this metric should be clear, understandable for everybody in company, not only for IT guys. It should be comparable, measurable to money. Second one is data. The question like, where is data, who is owner, how many you have, and what exactly data do you need, and so on and so on. And last question related with machine learning itself, related with features. To find relevant features and find them is quite big challenge. And for all of them, questions, you can use event storming. You need to adopt a bit because classical event storming don't give answer for all mentioned questions, but you can adopt this framework, this tool, to use or to apply this in machine learning as well. By the way, we call this adoption like data storming, and we still try to elaborate it and explore how to do it better.
Okay, going back to metrics. When we talk about DDD, one of the most important things, from my perspective, artifacts of DDD is the language itself. So, for example, when you start to talk the same language, you have been in the meetings where you called your clients users, and by the way, that's exactly how the table is called. So, and if you think about your company in different departments, in every department, that user or the client or whoever else will be called something different. And if something really happens in your system, a really big issue, where would you go? Because in effect, maybe they're the same, maybe they belong to a different process. So how to, the question for me was also very important, how to make sure that we start to talk that language that we have just discovered. Well, that's easy from my perspective and from my experience, because you just implement the right BI tools, the right dashboards, and as we discussed, you have the right metrics, that the ones that people have designed, not the business, not the overpaid business analysts from, and I mean the senior fellow, whatever, but the users themselves. And we can very easily put them on your Grafanas, Kibanas, whatever you have there, and have them sometimes in minutes, not in days or weeks. So if you look at this from perspective, what we realized is we get the business to talk about their process. I mean, but it's ours really because we develop it. They describe it in their own words. We start to measure the right things. They start to learn about the process by the metrics that they have designed, and they start to improve the process. So actually, there goes the loop. And that was probably the biggest thing that we found about event storming over last year. And one day we were sitting when we discussed one of the event stormings with Mariusz. I was so excited about the stuff that we have found that we talked about it for a couple of nights, really. He came to Krakow, we sat down in Saturday, I told my wife I'm going for hiking, but actually we were sitting for a whole day in a coffee shop and discussing, and we were like those small kids because we thought, wow, and this is another dot that it's connected, and we have all of these people who are usually in silos, from our own IT team, guys like testers, architects, designers, UX designers, developers. We have all of them connected here on this side. We've got our data guys on this side. We've got our business guys. We've got our data scientists. One tool to connect them all. And we were so thrilled. We just put it on Twitter. Alberto told us, okay, let's talk. You guys have some nice ideas. And I was really lucky to join event storming with some great minds, some of them who you already met this summer. But what we were discussing on the summit was beyond what I was expecting. And I'll let, again, somebody else to talk about it to you.
Hi Wojtek, and hello everybody there at CoreDump. A software is a sequence of performed actions based on perceived events. In event storming, we call policy what sits in between an event and the related action. In few words, a policy is the reason why behind an action. And in software, obviously, that can be embedded in code. We can also say that the process is related to an organization's culture. And after all, policies are there to define the standard by which we respond to events. Obviously, this is also true for non-automated events. Think about Amazon and think about other companies. How do they react to a customer's complaint, to events coming from customers complaining about the delivery, the service, the products, and so on. Everybody of you out there know the Amazon standard and can compare it with some other companies' very bad standards for the same event. I mean, there are companies that hide their toll-free number not to be called by customers about a badly provided service or a product with defects. If we can use event storming to investigate a process by event and policies and actions, then we can use event storming to understand a company's culture through its own processes. Because an organization's culture is scattered among all the policies that they use to execute their process. And we can also state that an organization's definition of value is trapped by the events they care most about. Maybe you cannot grasp a whole organization's culture, but with event storming, you can get a grasp of an organization culture. So, these were my few seconds about event storming. Enjoy the conference and have fun there at CoreDump. Ciao!
I wouldn't put it better myself. So, it's a beautiful world that we live in, but it's not true. When we work together with the business and our users and our analysts, this is the world we all lie to ourselves that exists. This is from the idea to the implementation. We think this is exactly how it goes. And of course, the software, we have implemented Scrum, so we were doing it in cycles. And we think actually this is the whole cycle that every 2 weeks go on and on and on. But the reality is very different. This is more like this. And when you actually scale it up and you think about projects that have, for example, 10 years, like banking systems, the dark place where developers are is so far from where the users are, for instance. And the biggest issue and the biggest challenge of our companies and our culture is, company culture is how to understand where exactly are we and what to do to get somewhere else. So this is something that we have discussed with Alberto at length, and we thought, actually, when you think about this, what I've shown you just on the previous slide, we thought, actually, event storming is probably the most lightweight tool to snapshot the culture, to snapshot the process, because it is a continuum. It won't stop. If you will shut the door with your business analyst and you will start making UML designs, this is the moment when you go far from your users, far from your developers, because they're doing their bloody code and their bloody tables already in the system. And this is probably very far from where you are mentally. So we thought, wow, this is the way to snapshot the culture and make the right people to have the right discussions. So this is exactly what I encourage you to do. Just make sure that you try that tool. Just pick the process, especially the ones that has some of the topics that you wouldn't be otherwise encouraged to address, because there might be some, as we call that, the saint processes that they were there forever, etc., etc. Okay, so what's the journey ahead? Well, I saw event storming to be used in very different areas, and the biggest, the most interesting from my perspective is that Vladimir used it to design a conference that actually was AI ML conference 2 months ago for 400 people, and he even stormed the whole conference.
I was inspired the idea with event storming, and this is why I've decided try to use it with conference and try to find the answer which I need to answer like organizers. The idea is, if you organize a conference, you need to make the best one because it's a good metric. But how to measure this? This is what I ask myself. how to measure that this is the best one, what they can do. And this is not about what you said about yourself, this is about what your participants said to their friends, right? And the question is, what they like, what they dislike, what they expect, what they really want, and so on and so on. And to find all those answers, Event Storming helped us. And it really worked. After this, we found many comments in internet, some articles, when people say this is the best conference I've ever joined. And this is really nice feedback. Oh, by the way, in this actually next year, in September, will be second edition, and you can join and try yourself.
Yeah, so you can try a conference designed with event storming. But coming back to Freshmail, there is Carolina, and there is two people who you can see on this photo who actually use also that tool. And I would say the most striking thing in this year was that actually this tool was behind the transformation of the company. But I will let the CEO and the CEO of the company talk for themselves.
Jakieś 1,5 roku temu Wojtek przyszedł z ideą event stormingu, która miała nam pomóc w zbieraniu wymagań co do tego, jak rozwiązania biznesowe powinny być implementowane.
Po kilku sesjach event stormingowych nagle okazało się, że nikt nie ma jakby wiedzy absolutnej. Znaczy ja na pewno nie miałem wiedzy absolutnej, chociaż wcześniej wydawało mi się, że wiem wszystko o wszystkim i po prostu tak ma być. Event storming stał się niejako takim otwieraczem do ludzkich głów, gdzie nagle zebraliśmy wiedzę na temat pewnego procesu, który wszystkim był znany, natomiast z różnych punktów widzenia i nagle okazało się, że nawet mimo iż mówimy tym samym językiem o tych samych rzeczach, to pewne drobne różnice w postrzeganiu pewnych działań robią bardzo dużą, kolosalną różnicę jakby na wyjściu, na efekcie wyjściowym.
Gdy po 3-godzinnej sesji udało nam się wyciągnąć wiedzę z głów uczestników, i widzieliśmy złożoność tego procesu, okazało się, że jest w nim bardzo dużo dziur i miejsc, w których po prostu najzwyczajniej w świecie uciekają nam złotówki. Dla mnie to był efekt uboczny event stormingu, równie ważny jak sam fakt zebrania wymagań.
Dla mnie osobiście, jako osoby, która zarządza całą organizacją, było niezwykłe to, że bardzo szybko udało nam się zaadresować wszystkie potencjalne problemy i wyzwania, z którymi możemy się zmierzyć, co znowu spowodowało, że nadając im odpowiedni priorytet, ja mogłem spać spokojnie i wiedziałem, że wszyscy ludzie zaangażowani w cały proces rozwoju danej funkcjonalności też wiedzą, co mają robić, kiedy mają robić i wiedzą przede wszystkim, po co to wszystko robią.
Event storming pozwolił nam uniknąć wielu pułapek i zaoszczędzić wiele godzin niepotrzebnego kodzenia. A przede wszystkim powiedziałbym, że zbliżył IT do biznesu, pozwolił nam mówić jednym językiem i świetnie wpłynął na relacje między tymi dwoma różnymi światami.
Event storming to nie jest już tylko dla nas adresowanie procesów IT, tylko to jest metoda, którą stosujemy właściwie przy każdym wyzwaniu, z którym mierzymy się we Freshmailu, nieważne czy to jest proces biznesowy, czy to jest proces marketingowy. I ja osobiście mogę powiedzieć, że warto zainwestować tych kilka godzin w bardzo szerokim zespole, po to tylko, żeby później nie mieć problemów wynikających z braku wiedzy, z braku świadomości tego, do czego dążymy.
Teraz jesteśmy wielkimi fanami event stormingu i polecamy Wam spróbować tą metodologię na sobie.
I mean, seriously, how often have you got a CEO of your company telling that IT tool has changed the way he thinks and he works? You can answer yourself, because that was the first time. Okay, the future of event storming. Exactly 2 weeks ago, ThoughtWorks put event storming in the highest position of recommendation. So it means if you haven't heard about event storming in 3 years, you definitely will be doing it on almost a daily basis. And I guess this is the future, because we just started to open our eyes and think about open new doors and think what's beyond them. And there are new doors. And I will let somebody else to talk about that.
What would the event storming be in a few years? Well, the thing is, I think we really just started to scratch the surface. the whole field of large-scale modeling and collaborative modeling without space constraint is large, and we are just challenging how companies are self-organizing around their mission, but it doesn't have to be only limited to business. I see a lot of space in the area of large-scale problem solving, tackling problems where nobody has a clear picture of the whole thing. I'm thinking stuff like education, immigration. There's something that we can do just because now we have a better tool to handle this type of large-scale problems. And I guess that's where we should try to get sooner or later.
So I would come back. It's a single roll of paper with some sticky notes. A lot of people sometimes make jokes about that. But I can tell you, I haven't seen a single so low-tech tool that solves so many problems. And after one of the event storming, and another ones, I can tell you that it helped me this year especially to shape something, connect different dots in my head, and ask really I guess the crucial question. So what is important in the end in our profession? Is it about the language that we learn? Is it about the framework? Is it about who has the bigger Hadoop, etc., etc.? Because there are frightening things in the internet, and stuff like Data Science Manifesto. I let you read it because when I'm coming from the data background, and when I read Data Science Manifesto, I thought there is no way I can just show it to my team and say this is important. And I will, in the world where everything is going towards lean, towards asking the right questions, where we can invest our time and money, and how can we make the right decisions. This is the sort of the right questions, and I think this is transforming IT as we know it. And this is one of the tools that does it, actually. Because in the world where everything is IT, I will challenge you, show me a single company that it makes sensible for IT department to exist. IT departments don't make any sense anymore. We are the guys behind all of the processes in all organizations. So what's IT really? This is the question I wanted to ask you, and you can challenge me on that. Because from my perspective, we need to rethink our profession. And finding the right problem is actually more important about discussions who has bigger Hadoop. And I would, if I can tell you just one last thing, this year was personally for me really important, I think, during my career, and I could rethink a lot of stuff. I met a lot of amazing people. I could discuss with them a lot of ideas that I had. Many dots were connected. And if I were about to tell you what is important about our profession, it is actually about talking to the right people about the right problems that we need to solve because we've got the skills and we have the responsibility. There is a saying in Polish, if you're not Polish, you haven't studied in Poland, you may not know it. I haven't studied IT just to talk to people. Well, I have news for you. Times will change. This is exactly why you have studied IT, especially with all of the technical revolution that is going to happen, and how, for example, AI and machine learning will affect our jobs, guys, because we put all of our knowledge on things like GitHub, GitLab, and Stack Overflow. There is a time and the clock ticking where something will code for us. So are we going to talk about this bigger Hadoops, or are we going to solve some big problems? And this is the question that I really wanted to ask you at the end. So thank you, guys. This was my take on event storming, and I really wanted to thank Jarek for the invitation. I hope you liked it. I was really glad to share my experience and my knowledge. I will be, of course, at the party. So talking about event storming, what can I talk about else than event storming and machine learning? And if you have any questions, just shoot them. I will just play a video of an event storming session, how it goes. Thank you.